And Jesus had so much patience with all the people who were just doing the wrong thing. And if you think about it, when he knew exactly what Judas was going to do. And he said to him, so gently, he said to him, go and do what you need to do. He didn't scold him. He didn't abandon him. He didn't, he could do, he could have been so unkind or so like, how could you do this to me? I thought you were one of my beloved disciples, Like he could have acted in such a human way, but he didn't. He didn't. In today's episode, we're diving into something every Christian leader needs: people skills. We know leadership is all about influence, and influence flows through relationships. So how do we, as women of faith, cultivate strong, healthy, spirit-led relationships at work, in ministry, and in our lives? Whether you struggle with difficult co-workers, find it hard to connect with your team, or simply want to reflect Christ more clearly in your interactions, this episode is definitely for you. Do you wish that you could lead your team in a way that honors and glorifies God? Are you struggling to overcome self-doubt as a leader and have a desire to be more confident in your role? Welcome to the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast. I'm Rika, and for the last decade, I've experienced my fair share of managing challenging employees and teams in middle management leadership roles. I committed my leadership journey to God, and it changed everything. And I'm ready to share everything I've learned with you. Now, if you're ready to lead your team in a way that honors God, grab that notebook and pen, and don't forget your chai latte, and let's dive in. Now, before we dive in, I have a quick invitation for you. Next week, I am holding the Confidence Kickstart Challenge. And if you've been craving more confidence in your leadership, the kind that's rooted in who Christ is, not just who you are, then you have to come and join me. This is a free 1-hour live workshop happening on June the 25th. That's for our US listeners, and June the 26th for the Australia listeners, where I'll help you uncover what's really holding you back, how Jesus modeled bold leadership, and how you can start leading with confidence today, just like Jesus did. Head to events.womenoffaithinleadership.com to register. You don't want to miss it. Even if you can't make it live, please register, because then you'll still receive the recording afterwards. Now, before I talk about the 5 people skills that every female Christian leader needs, let's talk about why people skills matter in God's kingdom. As Christian leaders, our people skills are not just practical, they're actually spiritual. Jesus himself said the greatest commandment is to love God and to love people, and also to love others. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So, for us to be able to live that out truly on this world and on this earth, we need to be able to have a relationship, number one, with God. He's our creator, and he's the one who created relationship. When he was creating the earth in those first 7 days, he made Adam. And he saw that Adam was alone, and he saw that it was not good to be alone. And therefore, he made Adam a wife. He made Eve. And so relationship was one of the things that God noticed first and foremost that us as human beings need. And so, those people skills, it all starts with relationship. It's not one of the 5 people skills you need. I'm going to come to that. But everything in your leadership rises and falls on relationships. If you have a relationship with your colleagues, if you have a relationship with your employees, then everything else is going to be so much easier. Now, look, I get it. It is extremely difficult sometimes to have a relationship with someone who just gives you grief all day long, somebody who challenges your every decision, somebody who rolls their eyes at you when you say something, thinking about my teenage daughter, or just somebody who just makes your life a living hell. Like, that's how you feel at work. They gossip about you. They use foul language. They are just, they may be somebody who doesn't believe in Christ, maybe somebody who blasphemes, or, we live in a very worldly world, and it can be very, very challenging for us as Christians to live out our Christianity and our relationship with God on a daily basis. Hence the reason why this podcast exists, so that I can help you to navigate those challenges, because I've done that before myself. Now, the reality is that you can be gifted, you can be brilliant, okay, but if you can't connect with people, influence becomes hard. You can be the most amazing leader you ever want to be, but if you don't have a relationship with your people, whatever you think is that good leader, it's going to fall flat on its head. Relationships are the soil in which leadership grows. I love that saying. Now think about Jesus. He noticed the unnoticed. He spoke with compassion. He invited questions, and he even corrected with grace. People were drawn to him. It was just, if you go and read the Bible, people were just drawn to him. I mean, think about the 5,000 people that followed him. They didn't actually eat or drink anything for days. And so that's why they said, okay, send the people away. They need to go and eat and drink something. They're hungry. But it was so far away from where they could actually get something to eat. That's why God said, what do we have to offer these people? And a boy came forward and he said, I've got these loaves of bread, and I've got this amount of fish, 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. And Jesus said, that's enough. Feed the 5,000. Of course, the disciples were like, how are we going to feed these people with this little amount of food? But God multiplied it. He multiplied it, and he fed the people. And so that's how drawn people were to Jesus, because of relationship. And so, he was a powerful speaker, and yes, he, said all these amazing things, but that, I don't believe that that's the reason why people were drawn to him. I believe that they were drawn to him because he was so compassionate and he was so kind, and he didn't care who these people were. He was willing to build a relationship with them. He wasn't holier than thou and said, oh, no, you guys can't come close to me. Talk to my disciples, like I'm too important. He wasn't like that at all. And so in Colossians 3 verse 12, it says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And so this is really what Jesus lived out. Jesus lived out compassion. He lived out kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Oh my gosh, he's so patient. And God as well. I listened to an amazing episode the other day on the Daily Grace Co podcast on, is the God of the New Testament the same as the God of the Old Testament? And I know that there's a lot of, I've been thinking about that, because we think that Jesus had to come so that God could become a more compassionate God. But God was always compassionate, and he was always patient. I mean, the amount of patience he has in the Old Testament, it's spectacular and it's amazing. And he still has so much patience to this day. And just remember that Jesus is God in body form, in living form. He came to the earth to show us what patience looks like. And Jesus had so much patience with all the people who were just doing the wrong thing. And if you think about it, when he knew exactly what Judas was going to do. And he said to him, so gently, he said to him, go and do what you need to do. He didn't scold him. He didn't abandon him. He didn't, he could he could have been so unkind or so like, how could you do this to me? I thought you were one of my beloved disciples, like he could have acted in such a human way, but he didn't. He didn't. And so, I really, really want you to think about that. Think about the Last Supper. Think about those things he said. I mean, go and read the Last Supper. He said to Peter, he said, one of you is going to betray me. And then Peter said, no, not I will die for you, Lord. And then Jesus said to him, mark my words, before the cock crows 3 times, you would have betrayed me 3 times. And Peter argued and he said, no, I will never do that. And what happened? That's exactly as Jesus predicted. But was he unkind? Was he uncompassionate? Was he not gentle? Was he impatient with Peter? No, he wasn't any of those things. Colossians 3 verse 12 is literally the Jesus's embodiment of what we should be trying to be on a daily basis. Clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And so this leads me into the 5 people skills every Christian leader needs. So look, there's more. I can probably use compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience as my 5 people skills, okay? Those are important. Those are extremely important, but it's the foundation. It actually, those 5 things forms the foundation of the 5 things that I'm going to talk about now. Let's break down the top people skills that help us build strong relationships and how you can grow in them. But just remember that these are built on clothing yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentle, and patience. And you cannot do any of these things if you don't have compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. So number 1, the first people skill that every Christian leader needs is active listening. We often listen to respond or to reply to what the person wants to say. Why? Because if the person's saying something that's inaccurate, we want to defend ourselves. Or if the person is saying something that is hurting towards us, again, we want to defend ourselves and we want to not be hurt by their words. However, active listening says that we are not going to listen with the intention of responding, but to understand where that person is coming from. And if you use compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience as the basis or the bottom line, the foundation of active listening, then you're going to be compassionate with that person while they are saying whatever they're saying. You're going to respond with kindness. You're going to be humble in all of that. You're going to be humble in this whole situation. You're going to be gentle, and you're going to be more than anything else, you're going to be patient, which means that you're not just going to blow up like a volcano. Or I'm thinking about, if you've ever watched Inside Out, I'm thinking about anger blowing up and the fire literally coming out of his head at the top. Volcano, right? We want to avoid that at all costs. But true connection starts when someone feels heard. So you can only really build a relationship with someone if they feel heard, okay? They've said something because that's something that really bothers them. It's something that means a lot to them. And if you just wash it off or wash it away or just shake it off and say, whatever that person said doesn't mean anything to me, it's irrelevant, you cannot build a relationship with that person. So ask yourself this question. Do I blow my top when I respond to people? Am I compassionate? Am I kind? Am I humble? Am I gentle? Do I have patience? And a practice that you can do, some practices that you can do, is you can ask questions. Ask questions of this person. Instead of responding to reply or reply to respond to whatever it is that they're saying, ask them questions. Pause before you respond and reflect back what you hear. So you can say something like, what I'm hearing from you is that you're very upset that I said this during the staff meeting last week. Is that correct? And, often Jesus actually answered questions with more questions, showing that he truly heard the heart behind the words. And so that is something that you can practice as well. People skill number 2 that you need is empathy. And again, this is built on those foundational skills. Empathy is different from sympathy. Empathy is stepping into the other person's shoes and saying, I see you, I hear you, and I care for you. And an example of this from the Bible is when Jesus wept with Mary and Martha when their brother died. Jesus knew that he was about to raise Lazarus from the dead. He knew that he was going to do that. But he felt the pain of Mary and Martha. He put himself in their shoes, the hurt that they've been feeling from Lazarus's passing. And so he felt empathy. That's what empathy is. And our challenge is that, sometimes we just want to sympathize with someone. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And then we just kind of want to get it over and done with. But if we show true empathy for someone, for what they're going through, we need to put ourselves in their shoes. And so something that you can do is you can ask God for soft eyes and a soft heart and soft ears when you feel that you've become hard or impatient with people. And the meaning of having soft eyes or soft heart or soft ears is basically just that you can be empathetic with those people and that you are not this hardened person. Sometimes we don't realize that we've become this hardened person, but I would challenge yourself to go and have a look at your responses to people, not only the people at work, but also at home. How are you responding? Are you being very impatient with your children? Are you being very impatient with your partner, your husband or your wife? And, what does that look like? And if you feel like and you recognize, ask the Holy Spirit to show you if you have become hardened or if your heart has hardened, or if you're being very impatient. Sometimes we don't even realize if we're being impatient. Then ask God to change that. The third people skill that you need is emotional intelligence. Now, part of having emotional intelligence is actually knowing your own triggers, knowing what are the things that upset you, knowing how to respond when those triggers happen. Okay, that's not always easy. But in that, managing your tone of voice, because sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that is something that comes across very often. It actually makes me think of Joey in Friends. I love Friends. And he one time said to Chandler, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And that's exactly the truth. It's not what we say more often than not, it's our tone of voice. And that our tone of voice can be condescending. It can be quite rude. It can be disrespectful. It can be annoyed. There's so many things that our tone of voice can show to people, even though we sometimes don't mean it, right? So understand how your mood affects your team. That is what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence is, and look, there's more. I've got a whole episode on emotional intelligence if you want to go and listen to that. That was episode 81. So go and have a listen to episode 81 if you want to go and listen to a full episode on emotional intelligence. And I want to remind you of Proverbs 15 verse 1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So really think about, again, how are you responding? How are you talking to people? Know your own triggers. That's part of having emotional intelligence, is knowing what things upset you and how to deal with them. If you need to go and see a counselor, if you need to go and see someone who can help you with those sort of things, I would 100% recommend it. And sometimes we feel shy. We feel, what are people going to think of us if we see a counselor or a psychologist? It's actually not. You can actually also see, actually, what is it? It doesn't really matter what other people think, because you can just say, I'm doing it because I am growing my emotional intelligence, something that you can actually be proud of. But there is a stigma, I get it. But, for your own sake, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And if you see it like that, then you're going to grow as a female Christian leader. So the fourth people skill that I would highly recommend is communication. Clear, grace-filled communication. Now, Ephesians 4 verse 15, which is something that I've brought up in the last couple of episodes, is speak the truth in love. Don't beat around the bush, but don't bulldoze either. So there's that, medium that you have to find between, not beating around the bush, but also not hurting somebody else's feelings. But if you speak the truth in love, then it's almost certain that nothing can go wrong. But my practical tip for you here is using I statements, and for you to be specific and not vague. This is why I said clear, grace-filled communication. Quite often when I speak to leaders or when I work with employees, what they always say is that, the fall is the fact that there's no clear communication. Or if I work with leaders and I ask about the communication and I see some of the communication, then it's really just, it's not great. People think that it's really good communication, but it's still a bit of a mind reader situation where they're just not communicating well with their employees and they're expecting their employees to read their minds. They can't do that, okay? So I want to give you an example. Instead of saying you always ignore my input, try and say I feel discouraged when my ideas aren't acknowledged in meetings. Okay, so I statements. Instead of saying you always ignore my input, you say I feel discouraged. So I did this once as well, and I have brought this up in the past before, but my line manager didn't want to accommodate me with something, and so I went to my 2-up. And I said to my 2-up, listen, I can't get this resolved with my line manager. Are you able to help me? And so what my 2-up did is she forwarded my email directly to my line manager and said, can you please sort this out? I felt horrible, golly, because I could not believe that my 2-up would email my email to my line manager. Anyway, okay. So I just emailed her back and I said, look, I feel very deflated that you forwarded my email to my line manager. This was actually a private matter between you and me. I felt that I felt that my confidentiality was breached. And yeah, I basically said, I felt really deflated. That's the words I used. And so she came back, very quickly to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. I just was in a rushful moment and I just wanted it to get sorted. And so I get that she also made that mistake, and I reckon she learned from that mistake as well. But I said I felt deflated versus how could you do this to me? Like you broke my confidentiality. But yeah, no, that was an interesting situation. So start thinking about the words that you use, but also be very clear and explicit in your communication to people. They are not mind readers. And then the 5th and final people skill that I want to share with you is leading with humility, which is basically one of the 5 foundational skills of Colossians 3 verse 12. But what does that actually mean? Let's go a little bit deeper into that. Leading with humbleness or with humility means that you don't always have the answers for everything. It means that you invite collaboration, and you reduce the tension by incorporating or getting other people to collaborate with you, and you build trust. Humility helps you to honor other people even when you disagree, and it sets the tone for grace-filled communication and unity. So, in Ephesians 4 verse 2 to 3, it says, be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Bearing with one another in love. That means if that employee annoys you a lot, you are going to bear with them in love, okay? So humbleness basically means that you don't need to have all the answers. You're not the only one that knows things, but your team can actually bring strengths to your team as well, even if some of them are really annoying, even if some of them have got really bad habits or do things that just put you off. And so that's why I actually decided not to socialize with people from work, because I didn't want to know what they do out of work. I didn't want to see all their annoying little outside of work habits. I didn't want to, be around them if they got silly from this or that or whatever. I just wanted my viewpoint of them to be how they are at work, because people are different from work than what they are in their personal lives. So now a good example in the Bible of leading with humbleness was Jesus washing the disciples' feet. This is in John 13. Just before his crucifixion, Jesus took on the role of the servant and washed his disciples' feet. And this act wasn't just about cleanliness, definitely not. We know that it wasn't. It was actually a radical display of humility and a servant-hearted leadership. And in John 13:14, it says, now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. By lowering himself and sitting on the floor physically and washing their feet, this is both physical and a an act of showing that, okay, I am not more important than you by washing your feet. So it was both physical, but also a showcase of humility. He showed that the greatest leaders aren't the loudest voices in the room, aren't the person who gets to be served all the time, but is usually the person who's most willing to serve others, even in the most unexpected ways. And if you've watched The Chosen season 5, I hope you've watched it. It's so good. I know some people say, The Chosen is just another story, but it is. I feel it's a really good representation of what, it could have been like during the times of Jesus. There's many things that say that they try and keep it as biblically accurate as possible. And I know there are some storylines that are not in the Bible. But what I'm thinking about is when Jesus washed their feet. Peter said, "No, Lord, you can't wash my feet. It should be the other way around." And, Peter felt quite indignant that Jesus was washing his feet. But the reason why Jesus did that is he had to show them physically that this is what we do as leaders. This is how we lead others. We are not just more important than other people. We lower ourselves and humble ourselves so that other people can be uplifted and then lead better and be better people. So, my final suggestion to you as I finish up this episode is that for you to be able to maintain strong relationships is going to be the greatest reflection, or the greatest reflection is not the word I want to use, it's going to be the greatest challenge of your spiritual maturity. And if you really want to lead as a Christian leader without people, whether people know that you're a Christian or not, then these things are going to be your challenges. But remember, it's actually all those 5 things that I've mentioned are based off of and foundational of Colossians 3 verse 12. So definitely go and bookmark that verse and go and listen to this episode again. Go into your YouVersion Bible app. Go and read and go and save that one, because I believe that if that is foundational to any leader, and then on top of that comes these people skills. So what I want to finish off with is when things get hard, because they are going to get hard, okay? Fortunately, nothing in life comes easy. What I would suggest to you is, number 1, pray before you speak. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to make it into a scene on your knees. You can just say, "Lord, please help me. I need your help in this situation and in this conversation." And then ask the Holy Spirit for wisdom. "Dear Holy Spirit, please give me wisdom in this situation right now." And then remember that every single person in this whole wide world, whether they believe in God or not, has been made in the image of God, even the difficult ones. And if you remember that difficult person that you are dealing with, if you think about them as they are also made in the image of God, they just don't know it yet. And that should give you the ability to have that compassion, to have kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience with that person, because they were also made in the image of God. And if you make a mistake, be quick to apologize, because that teaches your team as well that it's okay to make mistakes. And I've got some reflection questions for you, which I'll put in the show notes. These are 3 questions for you. Who in your life or leadership role do you need to reconnect with? Where might God be calling you to communicate more clearly or with more compassion? And how can you reflect Jesus in every conversation this week? I'll put them in the show notes for you. Go write them down, go journal through them, and go and think about the things that you are challenged with today, because they are a challenge. This was not easy. The things that I'm saying in this podcast is not always easy, but I feel like I need to stretch you out of your comfort zone to move. This is where we grow, is out of our comfort zone. And so if you want further actionable steps on how you can lead confidently like Jesus, similarly to the things that I've discussed in this episode today, I'd really like to invite you to come and register for the Confidence Kickstart Challenge that's happening next week. It's a 1-hour free workshop. I know a lot of you can't attend live. That's okay. I'm still going to present it and then send you the replay. Just go to events.womanoffaithinleadership.com to register. You've got absolutely nothing to lose by registering. All I'm going to send you is a replay, some follow-up emails. So nothing to lose, but everything to gain. So go to events.womanoffaithinleadership.com to register. And we're going to be talking about 3 things. What are the things that's holding you back from leading like Jesus? How Jesus modeled confident leadership, and how you can start leading like Jesus today. So go to events.womanoffaithinleadership.com, go register, and I'll send you the replay if you can't make it live. I can't wait for that 1-hour workshop. I'm so looking forward to it, to share with you what I've learned, and to see people live on Zoom, or then to send you the replay afterwards and hear your thoughts. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak again next week. Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.